Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Murder in Retrograde. Today we have an interesting case and one that has kind of been in the news, kind of parallel to Gabby Petito. And we've listened to everybody, and there's a lot of people out there saying, like, yes, of course, Gabby Petito matters, but there's a lot of other people that are missing that also matter. And so we want to highlight some of those cases, and one that Jenna and I thought was just so strange and needed a spotlight because it just happened is the case we're bringing you today of Jelani Day. So let's get right into it. Unless Jenna, you have anything to add to the beginning?
No, I'm just so glad you're back.
Oh yeah, it was fun.
I missed you.
I went to the Grand Tetons. I bet nobody can guess why. I actually had this
I was gonna
planned
say.
beforehand. I don't know how this keeps happening to me, but yeah, more on that later.
Oh, we'll have
But
an
anyway.
ADD sidebar about that later.
Yeah, for sure. But let's get to today's case. So Jelani Jesse Javante Day, or Jelani as he was called, was born in 1996 in June. He was 6'1" and 25 years old. And I was curious, so I looked up his name. Jelani is Swahili, and it means great and powerful. I think it's such a pretty name.
It is really pretty.
So his mother's name is Carmen Bolden Day. She's 49 years old, and his dad's name is Sev Day. And he unfortunately is currently suffering from cancer, for which Jelani was a match because it was some sort of bone marrow cancer. And he was set to donate bone marrow to help his dad heal. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, as we'll hear. So Jelani was their third son, and he actually had 4 other siblings. So this was a big family. His parents raised them in rural Danville, where their families had been coal miners for years, but they wanted so much more for their children. And they ended up putting all 5 of their children through college and then some. They're now successful doctors, attorneys, etc. I just find that mind-blowing. Like, for generations, they were just coal miners, and then bam, they put all their kids through amazing schools, and they're doing such wonderful things. Like, for example, Jelani graduated from Alabama's A&M University, and then he was currently enrolled at Illinois State University in grad school, where he was studying to become a doctor. He was actually studying speech pathology for a very specific reason. Growing up, his best friend had a speech impediment, and he would constantly be bullied, and Jelani was always sticking up for him. And so he promised his friend that one day he was going to help kids like him. So that's just what he was setting out to do. I mean, it gives you a really good description of person this was. So Jelani's grandpa had died on October 14th. And as a result, Jelani had taken over his white 2010 Chrysler 300. He worked so many hours to afford all the repairs that this car needed, but he did it proudly. And so that was his car. He took really good care of it, and he was going to med school, and just a really good person all around.
Sorry, not to interrupt, but it's going back to like his story of like why he got into like speech pathology. I think that speaks a lot to his character right there. Like, just shows you that he really wanted to make a difference to someone and that he cared about. And I just think that's amazing.
Yeah, and signing up to be a match for his dad. I mean, most people think, of course, I'll do that. But a lot of people don't know how excruciating that is to have your bone marrow taken out. And just, I'm sure he was the first person, and they were so happy that he was a match. So Jelani was officially reported missing on August 24th by his family and a professor after he didn't show up for class for several days, which was totally unlike him. Days went by with the police insisting he would probably show up, but the family knew something was wrong. This was not normal behavior from him at all. And this is an important thing. Like, as we know, I think as for children, Jelani was not a child, but we know 99% of children that go missing are found. But that's not really the case with adults. And this whole thing of like waiting, I
Yeah.
get it. We don't have enough resources to look for everybody, but I wish there was some sort of way to show like, no, this isn't your typical person that would do this. Because how many cases have we covered where they waited the 48 hours and something happened, like
Yeah.
it just seems like that should change, where they make the parents wait. But how they don't have the resources.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it seems like they've gotten a little bit better if people are like, no, 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 this is their routine. This is what happens every day. And the fact that we haven't heard from him for 28, 48 hours, whatever it was, and I think when you can prove that to them, they take it a little bit more seriously and show like, okay, something is amiss, but I don't necessarily think they make you wait anymore. I think it's more of, you can't call someone missing after 4 hours or something, you know what I mean? But
Yeah,
I don't think you have to wait 2 days anymore.
I'm pretty sure you have to wait 24 hours. I don't know. It's probably different everywhere.
Yeah.
But
Probably per state.
and I also think people have gotten hip to that and can say things like, oh, he takes medication and he needs it. And you can kind of, like in a hospital, I've always been told, like, if you say your heart hurts, you get rushed in. Like if you're in the ER and you're waiting and waiting, and then you say, oh, my heart hurts, they push you in front of everybody because cardiology is like the number one thing. Maybe I shouldn't be saying that.
I'll say, thanks for the tip.
I know a lot of nurses, and listen, nurses have told me that. Okay, I'm not naming names, but
good. That's good to know. No, so Carmen Bolden said that she didn't think her son ran away and she believed that someone hurt him. And she said, quote, he wasn't depressed. He didn't have any kind of pressures that would make him want to escape from life. So I do feel as if there was someone involved. And I do feel like moms, like we know when
yeah.
something is going on with our kid. And we know, I don't know how to explain it, but we just know.
But there are also mothers who think that their kid is perfect and has never done anything wrong. And we're like, really? Some people have blind spots, but for the most part, yes, gut instinct.
Gut instinct is just a real thing. The celebrity musician Lizzo also shared on her TikTok on Jelani's disappearance, calling attention to the investigation, which was great to help bring awareness because, like you said, when this is all going on, there's a lot of Gabby Petito conversations going on. And so to have someone with that kind of following is great. With more than 26,000 signatures on a petition started by the members of the Omega Psi Fraternity Inc. and the New Epsilon chapter at Alabama A&M University, calls for federal and state authorities to take over the investigation, alleging that the Bloomington Police Department has, quote, shown the inability to handle a case of this nature. They go on to say that Jelani is loved and represents the absolute best of our beloved fraternity. Therefore, bringing those responsible for this heinous act to justice is not a request, but a demand. The persons responsible for Jelani's death is now walking our community free and will not rest, and we will not rest until those responsible are brought to justice. So this obviously came out after we had kind of found him. But
think about that. Like his fraternities started that in a totally different state. And they, within weeks, had 26,000 signatures. Like this wasn't just, everybody matters, but this was such a good person. And there were so many people that knew it and jumped to action. And thank goodness for his family that they had that support. Because it doesn't sound like they had much support on the law enforcement end.
Yeah. So what do we know about where he was that day? So on August 24th, Jelani was captured on surveillance camera at about 9:15 a.m. inside Beyond Hello retail store, which was a cannabis dispensary in Bloomington. He was wearing a Detroit Lions baseball cap, gray athletic shorts, and Jimi Hendrix shirt. This is the last public sighting authorities say that they were able to document of Jelani.
And that dispensary was right by his college. So it's like not like he drove far to go to this place. It's just like very typical. And I have news for you. Going to the dispensary at 9 a.m. is totally normal when you're in college. It's needed.
I mean, it's normal when you're not in college. Like, what are you talking about?
It's normal when you're a mom.
Then came a sinking feeling when on August 26th, Jelani's Chrysler was found with no plates and no keys in Peru, Illinois. a town he had never been to in his life, but it's out 1 hour away from where he was supposed to have been on his college campus. So an hour away is
Totally
where
out of the way, like
it's somewhere,
very rural.
and somewhere he didn't have any business being in, right? So that was also a huge red flag. The car was right by a river off Interstate 80, south of Illinois Valley YMCA. Police found his car in the woods 60 miles away in Peru, Illinois, from where he had just been seen in Bloomington. And police also reported that the clothes he was last seen wearing in their surveillance video were found inside the white Chrysler 300. Like, what?
That doesn't make any sense.
No,
Where are his clothes?
No, it makes no sense. Like, why does he not have his clothes? His vehicle was, and this is a quote from one of the police officers, where he said his vehicle was totally out of place. It was totally suspicious. And investigators obtained search warrants for electronic devices found in the car, and we did find his last location was beyond Hello Store. We could look up to a certain point, and then it just stopped pretty much. His phone was either turned off or died. The data wasn't there.
What?
So he's in by his campus at this retail shop, and then they can track him to a certain point, which means he probably met with some foul play, right? And they either destroy the phone, turn it off, or they must have, I don't know if they found it or not, but data just stopped.
But they said that they got a search warrant for
the
electronic devices found in the car. Oh, I was thinking like the GPS on the car.
Oh, I think
they're just talking about the phone
in the car. Yeah, maybe just if there was anything inside, because it doesn't, or maybe I don't know, because that's not what they talked about his phone.
Up until the dispensary,
because car GPS doesn't just turn. You can't turn that off.
No, but maybe he didn't. Maybe it didn't have one. Remember, he had to do so many repairs. I would doubt that it would have. It's like a 12-year-old car.
Yeah.
Yeah, you must be right. So he went to the dispensary, and then it either died or his phone turned off, and his clothes are in there. Like dispensaries, for the most, I've never been to them in Illinois, but they can be in some sketchy areas.
No, I mean, listen, even here, sometimes, in California where they're everywhere, listen, they're sometimes in these random warehouse locations, like maybe someone saw you never know.
And people know if you're going to, well, maybe some people think like if you're going to a dispensary, you have cash on you.
Oh, that's a great point.
I don't know, but the data and everything, and having no information of where he went after that would mean weird. Something would have had to have happened there. And another thing is dispensaries have tons of surveillance cameras.
Yeah.
So they must have cameras outside. Anyway,
listen, I think that they're also in a situation where they're not going to release some of this stuff, right? But the police officer did go on to say that Day does not fit the usual profile of a missing person. There was no money issues, no mental health crisis, and no domestic issues, which just reaffirms everything we've already said.
And so, as we said, during this time, Gabby Petito case is everywhere. And Jen and I were just as obsessed with that one too. And there seemed to be some sort of like, I don't know about racial tension, but there was a lot of outcry from indigenous groups and minorities saying like, another white woman gets all of this attention, like the whole white woman syndrome and all of that. And that's not to say that Gabby isn't as important, but it is frustrating that those cases just take off. But there's more to that, because there was the body cam footage, and that's why I think people were so invested in the Gabby Petito thing, and there was the search for him. But had we heard this story, we would have been just as interested and searching just as much, but it just didn't get as much play as Gabby Petito. So Jelani's family was obviously shattered, and they had grown increasingly disappointed and frustrated with the pace of this investigation. The scant attention it was getting in the news, everything, I can't imagine. You don't even know what happened to your baby, and then you can't even get it on TV, but then you see this other case all over the place. What a bittersweet mixed bag of emotions.
Totally. And I do have to say, like, with the Gabby thing, I feel like the reason people went down the rabbit hole so much, there was so much footage to dissect over, right? Like like when you're on YouTube and Instagram, and then you have police footage. And I feel like stuff like that is why cases sometimes get more attention. I don't necessarily think with her that it was because she was a white woman. I think it was more about this kind of situation of events and footage and things for people to dissect in a way.
Yeah.
But obviously, being, Jelani's family, I can imagine, or no, I can't imagine what that must have felt like, right? Because you're like going through something just as devastating and not getting the same kind of support.
Yeah.
And their family had criticized the investigation into the disappearance, saying that young Black men had not received the same attention as other missing persons, whose disappearance had made national headlines and spawned a multi-state search from numerous law enforcement departments. And Jelani's mom, Carmen Bolden, said Petito's disappearance didn't deserve less attention, but rather her son deserved more. So exactly what you were just
Exactly.
talking to. And as a mother, she said she empathized with the Petito family's pain. She told a local station 2 days before her son's body was identified that she only wanted the same recognition for her child. She said, "But do you not see us? Do you not see me? Do you not see my son? He is loved. He is wanted. He is important."
Oh,
That's like real
that
sad. It's like
hurts my
hard to read. Yeah.
soul. She
Yeah.
shouldn't even have to say such a thing,
I
and
know.
ugh.
As of today, Jelani Day's cause of death has yet to be released.
So, when and where was he found? A body was found on September 4th at 9:47 a.m. floating in the freezing Illinois River by the Illinois Route 251 bridge. LaSalle County Coroner press release didn't include the sex, race, or any hint whatsoever that the body was Jelani, even though the body was 6'1", just like Jelani. Eventually, they did say that the body was male, but that it would take weeks to determine who it was.
Mm-hmm.
This was around September 5th. Then on the 7th, they conducted a preliminary autopsy, and 19 days after the body was pulled from the river, they confirmed that it was indeed Jelani Day. Quote, "To me, it's unusual. The way his vehicle was, it was off a parking lot inside. It wasn't like deep into the woods, but it was off of a parking lot. That's unusual just in of itself. There's not much I can release at this point. So just really to state the obvious, that's unusual." Quote, end quote. So that's what the police said when they came out with their press conference. They declined to offer many specifics surrounding the ongoing investigation, but they did say that Day disappeared under unexplained, suspicious circumstances.
Yeah.
Were you going to say something, Jenna?
No, I was just saying, I saw that press release and the guy talking, I forget his name, Furman.
Yeah.
He came off good to me. I think
I thought so too.
Wants to kind of say more, but he's like, listen, like, no, this is not normal. Like we're looking into it. Like, I can't tell you why or what, but it's weird.
And it seemed like he specifically came out and did that after there were rumblings about this case not getting enough attention. So at least they listened and they did, change their behavior and give a little bit more information. As we know, you can't give tons.
Right.
But anytime there's a press release or a press conference, that's going to go on the news. So that's always a good thing to get more people, more eyes and ears on the case. So on October 16th, Insider released this info. They spoke to Jelani's older brother, who viewed the body and isn't convinced it's his brother. Day told Insider that while the county coroner warned him water can significantly alter a dead body, he was skeptical that Jelani's body could have decomposed that fast. He saw nothing of his brother in that body. "My brother went missing on August 24th. And they found the body on September 4th. So that's not a long time. The body they identified as my brother, it looks like it's been in the water for years." So he also added, "You couldn't identify whether it was male or female because there was no genitalia. You couldn't tell the skin color because it was so pale and worn down. The face itself looked like something you would see in a science lab." Now that is all shocking, but shocking things happen to a body, especially when it's in water.
I feel like sometimes too, like this was probably such a bad idea for him to see this, but I almost feel like you're looking for anything to have that, like, it's not them. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, dude, water is like, I mean, think about it. You're in the pool for an hour and you start to shrivel up. So can you imagine a body being immersed in water for what, at least 2 weeks or something? Like,
Yeah.
we're not scientists. We don't actually know. There's an idea of what we have of what happens, but I think from what it sounds like, from what all the things that you and I have read and covered, it sounds normal to me.
Yeah. For example, if anybody knows of the Body Farm, it's in Georgia, and it's this specific place where people donate their remains and they put them in different conditions so that forensic anthropologists and all of these people can study what happens to the body. And they put bodies in water and they do all of these different things. And I've read way too much about this stuff, and that happens. The skin turns white. I mean, the body expands because it fills with gases. I would not expect somebody to look anything like what they did alive. And yes, that's the magical thinking when somebody dies, especially this young and in such a shocking way. Of course, your mind's going to say, well, that's not him. He's somewhere else. He's still here, you know? So I think a lot contributed to that. And like you said, it's unfortunate that he had to go through such a traumatic experience. I can't imagine identifying one of my
You'll never
siblings.
get that out of your head either. Like, it's such a double thing because I've been thinking about this kind of stuff with like all, not to reference, but the Gabby and Brian stuff. But like,
Yeah.
I feel like as a parent, there is this like need and want to have to see that, but at the same time, that is not the image you need to have in your head. Like,
No.
it's got to be a hard kind of battle of emotions.
It is weird because I think we're animals, and there's like this instinct, because I've had the unfortunate experience of watching people die, to leave. For me, like once they have died, you want to get out of there, but some people don't, and that's okay. Everybody feels a different way, and that's normal. Some people feel comfort staying with the body and some people do not, and I don't think anybody should ever be judged for something like that
100%.
because it's an animalistic thing. So here comes what happens to his body. And this got a lot of attention. And this is sadly like the first time I saw it kind of ramping up in the news because it's just so awful. But an independent autopsy revealed that Jelani Day's jawbone was sawed out. Some of his teeth were missing. His organs were mush and liquefied. And others, including his brain, liver, and spleen, were not found. The reports were later shut down by Day's mother, who said that there were no organs missing.
Right.
And so this is not she said, quote, "This is not a case of organ harvesting. However, my son did not put himself in a river. My son was murdered, and my goal and my purpose are to find out what happened and hold those responsible accountable. Forgive me. I'm not the first mother to lose a child, but when somebody loses their child, majority of the time they know what happened to them or know why they're burying them," Jelani's mom said to the Daily Illini. It's so heartbreaking. It's so true. She just wants answers.
Like to like lose your child, but then have these like horrible rumors going around. It's like, just stop. You're just making their grief, I'm sure, even worse. And like where that even came from.
I think that there could have been, well, where it came from, I suppose allegedly, was when his body was given the funeral home. They said, why is this missing? This is missing. But then I also heard some people say that's totally normal. They take those out during autopsy. So I've heard both stories, but apparently the funeral home said something to the family because they thought, what's going on here with this body that we don't normally see?
But it also said it was mush. So that's probably why they weren't there. Like,
oh, yeah, exactly. Because I also really focused on Lacey Peterson's case when that happened, and she was found in water, and lots of things happened to her body because you don't have the flesh, and so it detaches, obviously. And I know it's so gross.
Such gruesome talk. Ooh, Lord.
But you know, like the body expands with gas and then it explodes. So you're not going to be fully intact.
Right.
Sorry, it's just science.
I know.
but it's crazy. So anyhow, his siblings still are very uncomfortable with it. They released a statement clarifying that there were body parts missing from the second autopsy and that they still do not have answers as to why. They said, quote, "First, we just want to express our thanks for the continuous support from everyone. We know a lot of you have been reaching out, and if we haven't read or responded yet, we will. Just give us some time. Secondly, we know majority of you have read the accurate Sun-Times article, seen other posts about our brother's body, and also have been reading our mother's posts. Our mom is trying to focus on one thing, and that is who murdered our brother. She has been doing an amazing job. As far as the body, there are things that are missing that we do not have an accurate explanation as to why they are missing. We also have questions as to why the first autopsy results differ from the second autopsy results. Per the second autopsy, the pathologist didn't have all the body parts/organs for the body they identified as our brother Jelani Day. Also, according to the second autopsy, the pathologist was confused as to why the first pathologist did what he did to our brother's body to perform the autopsy itself. Furthermore, the second pathologist was confused as to why he didn't have the whole body, and we are under the impression that the state lab still has body parts in their possession. Also, there are major organs that are damaged or, in their words, quote, mush and liquefied. We are not taking organ harvesting off the table, but still our mother's wishes are not to make organ harvesting the main focus. We are unsure if the whole body was there, so this is why we didn't do a burial. This is why we are in the process of getting a third autopsy done due to numerous amounts of conflicting information from the first and second autopsy. They have been keeping us in the dark, and we, the family, have been working to get answers. Due to the distrust, this is why we suspect foul play of the LaSalle County Coroner and LaSalle Sheriff's Office, LaSalle PD, Peru PD, and Bloomington PD. For these reasons, this is why we want/need the FBI involved as well. Thank you for your understanding, and please respect our family's privacy and wishes by not contacting our mom with your questions. Please give her time to breathe, think, and sleep. Thank you again. God bless. #Justice for Jelani Day. So, I mean, the organ harvesting was clearly too much for the mother to take. And so she came out and said, like, no, that's not what happened. And then the siblings released this, kind of letting people know, like, we don't want to talk about this. My mom can't handle it, but we're not dropping this. Something's up. That second pathologist, which now it sounds like that's where they got the information, right? Not the funeral home. The second pathologist must have said, like, why is the jaw cut?
Yeah,
which
that's the only
looked
thing that is like very weird to me, unless they did it to get, I don't know. I don't think that's a part of the process, like cut someone's jawbone.
They do a lot of different things during an autopsy. Maybe to identify the body, it was hard to get to the jaw for dental records. But if a pathologist who always does that says, this is weird, that would make me uncomfortable too. And God, they have to go through this again? It's brutal.
And I feel like by the third time, there's things that are missing. There's things that have already been done. There's things like like, how do you, I mean, not to continue with the graphic talk, but like, how do you keep a body in that state from getting worse in order to keep these like autopsies going? Like, is that, and you're just, oh God.
They're just frozen in the morgue. But when you do when the first pathologist did an autopsy, you have to keep samples of all that stuff. Right. So there should be samples of all the organs, and they said they might have some organs. So those should be there, unless somehow they're not, which would be very strange.
So crazy. There's so many like oddities. I don't know. Listen, I've never heard about harvesting body parts. But I don't know, to me, does that sound like, where did that come from? It doesn't sound like that is what happened. In my opinion, I don't think that's what happened in this case, but then again, we don't really know what happened at all. So
yeah.
So there was a video of a man that was walking up to a porch and knocking on a door, and no one answers and he leaves. And the Peru Police Department had posted this surveillance video on Facebook in late September, apparently showing a Black man approaching a residence and saying it was related to an ongoing investigation. Facebook post did not specify whether the video was related to Day's case, fueling speculation about its relevance. Later, the person in the video was eventually ruled out as a suspect. LaSalle County Sheriff Adam Disk confirmed the man has been located, interviewed, and cleared as both a suspect and a person of interest in this case. The man in the area was in pursuant to his employment. So basically, he was meant to be there.
Okay.
And they think, and they must have, whatever questions they got answered cleared him. October 14th, the toxicology was released and stated that, quote, caffeine and evidence of nicotine and cannabis were found during the toxicology testing, but they still are not releasing the cause of death. And again, like, that does not give us answers. Like, okay, great. He had a coffee, a cigarette, and some weed. Great. Now what? Like, that doesn't give, I don't know. I feel like it almost shouldn't be released unless it's going to tell us something.
Yeah.
The case has generated national attention, and Day's mother appeared on national news shows, including Good Morning America. Jelani did not just disappear into thin air. Someone knows something, someone's seen something, and I need someone to say something, Jelani Day's mother, Carmen Bolden, had said. She also called for federal authorities to investigate. The attorney for the Day family also told Newsy that evidence indicates that, quote, Jelani did not end up in that river willingly. I speak for the family when I say we are confident someone did something to Jelani. We don't know who that person is. We don't know what they did, but we feel very strongly, and the evidence points to someone else being involved in this. So they're asking, obviously, if you know anything, to contact the LaSalle County Sheriff's Office, 815-433-2161. Or, Crime Stoppers, all the things. There's multiple ways to reach out if you know anything on this information or anything on this. And if you have any information on this case, and then also that petition that the fraternity started at change.org, so you can make sure to sign. I think the whole thing is they really want the FBI to get involved because they think that that's what's going to help maybe bring resources or more eyes to it. I don't know that they will though, right? Because they have to have certain guidelines like crossing state lines or underage kids, or I don't know that this qualifies the FBI.
I don't know that it does either. Yeah, I don't know what the criteria is exactly. Like you said, we know certain things, like if it's a child or if they cross state or federal border lines or something like that. But it does seem like they tend to jump in if somebody doesn't have the tools and the resources, and certainly Peru, Illinois does not. It's in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. I mean, even if this was in Chicago downtown, they would probably consult the FBI, I would imagine. I don't know. It just seems like this happened in a real small town, and that's why it's not getting enough information, and it needs to get more information.
And that's another reason why there's not a lot of like CCTV probably, right? Like to follow maybe where his car went, because if it is in a rural area, then that doesn't really exist, like cameras everywhere. So yeah, they just need people who got their eyes open and saw his car or saw anything suspicious before it ended up on the side of the road. Like
there's got to be some sort of camera that showed him getting in his car at the dispensary.
I'm sure there is, but then I think it must have happened after, like maybe he was followed, maybe someone ran him off the road and that's why his car was on the side of the road. Like, I don't know.
But there's so many clothes in his car.
No, dude, that's weird. Like, how do you get
and he was found naked. And that's one thing, like if you have hypothermia, it is something where you take your clothes off, but you don't put them in the car and then jump in the river. It's like you jump in the river because you're out of your mind. And I'm sure some people will say, "Oh, he took like a really crazy edible or something like that." But that's not clearly they know how much marijuana was in his system and all of that. It's just wild.
And also it's like where it was found. It's an hour somewhere he's never, as it sounds like, never been, never goes to, had no business there. Like,
it's not a great area. There's lots of sketchy places out there and people out there. So we will definitely stay on top of this case and bring you any information that we can, because this poor family, they're in pain and we want to help them if we can.
Yeah. All right. So that's it. We will be back next week, and make sure to connect with us on our social medias and TikTok, and share us with a friend and subscribe and do all the things. Please. We appreciate
Yes,
you.
please.
So until next time,
be safe
and trust your
and
gut.
trust your gut.
Adios, guys.
Bye.
Okay, so Brittany and I are here having a quick conversation because as we were getting ready to post our new episode, more information has come out, and we just want to make sure you guys have all the latest up-to-date information on this case. So the coroner came out and said that Jelani Day's cause of death was ruled as a drowning, but adding to the manner in which Mr. Day went into the Illinois River is currently unknown. The report stated that there is no evidence of pre-death injury, assault, altercation, sharp, blunt, or gunshot injury. No projectiles or foreign objects were found, although, and sorry, this is a little bit graphic, quote, abundant insect larvae was found within and throughout the body and clothing. And there were no hand or finger fractures, and there's no evidence of tool or sharp force marks in the external tissues or exposed bones. So then his mom, Carmen, went on to say she had held a little bit of a press conference when this was released, and she said that she still has questions on how he died and believes that he was killed. And she says, quote, "I don't care what the press release says, my baby was killed. He did not drown himself."
Oh, it's just so confusing. And having this come out, this information of no trauma to his body and it being a drowning, it doesn't make sense, because even if somebody facilitated that, right, held him down in the water, he wouldn't have marks necessarily.
Absolutely. And you know what I read too that we didn't cover was that I found the article saying that his wallet was found, quote, somewhere in the bushes about a half mile away. So that to me, it's a clear sign. What you think he dumped his wallet in a half mile away, ran back, jumped in the river, but not before putting his clothes in his car? It's absurd.
Yeah, nothing makes sense. It's all very strange. If this behavior even happened, you would think there would be a witness, or some of this would have been captured on some sort of surveillance. But the fact that it wasn't, it makes me feel like it was nefarious. And it's just this poor mother. It's terrible that she can't get more information.
And then the family did also say that he was an avid swimmer. So another kind of tick in the box of this is not something that he didn't drown.
That's right. I forgot about that. He was a really good swimmer, and he was on the swim team in high school.
Yeah. So people like that don't typically go trying to drown themselves in a river. I don't know.
And the only thing found in his system was caffeine, nicotine, and THC. So I'm worried that people are going to say, oh, he was high on crazy marijuana, somebody's going to say, I wonder what he bought. I wonder if he got edibles or what he potentially had taken.
But I think it's safe to say that no matter how high on weed someone is, that they're not going to behave this way. Maybe on other drugs, absolutely, but
I'm sorry, have you not heard the famous phone call of the cops, the couple, male and female, who had eaten pot cookies or brownies, and they called 911? They were like, we think we're dead.
Okay, well, I've never known anyone to get that high. So maybe, but that still doesn't fit to me.
No, it doesn't. I'm just worried that that's what people will be like, oh, well, that's what it is. Put it in that box.
Sure.
No, there's something else going on here. And I want to keep this story in the news, because I feel like they're just going to try to brush it under the rug.
Yeah, I think so too. And I checked the petition's still going strong. They're up to 28,000 signatures now. And so, hopefully the police are not going to just write this off. I think when you put all the circumstantial kind of things together, that it shows that something nefarious has happened. But I think right now it's a waiting game.
Yeah, and in the last episode, when we covered Jelani's case, we talked about the FBI and how they weren't involved and when they get involved. And according to Chicago 5 NBC, several departments, including FBI's Springfield division, are involved in the investigation. Authorities have confirmed, though their exact role remains unclear. The FBI's Springfield office previously told NBC5 that it was, quote, in communication with Bloomington authorities in connection with the case. So, like, different factions of the FBI are saying, oh, no, they're doing it. Oh, no, they're doing it. Oh, yeah, we're in communication. So it doesn't sound like it's at the top of their list.
I mean, that's unfortunate. And I think we have to kind of just wait in the next couple of weeks and see what happens. But as we've seen, people getting loud and speaking about things can make a difference. So hopefully, like you say, we can get the word out there and everybody else can share and just, keep talking about him.
Definitely.
All right. Well, that's all we've got. So we, for real now, we'll see you guys next week.
Adios.
Bye.